Hey, how have you been? Going to open up my OBS, see if I can, as long as we're going live, might as well be able to see if I can chat with you. So I thought of three things for this. Normally, I would just upload a video and talk about what was on my mind. Right now, I wanted to do a video on my take on Starfleet Academy, my own version of Starfleet Academy, since it hasn't been really doing that well in terms of fan reactions. And I wanted to talk about my just an update on what I've been doing, the fact that I'm now interviewing some people in primarily right now it's been the 80s toy aisle, my podcast 80s toy aisle, but I have other podcasts too, and I have some scheduled guests coming up. So my channel's growing, my channel's developing, and I'm waiting for this OBS to open up. The third thing is hopefully I can be able to test this chat and see if you can be able to chat with me. So while that's opening up, normally I would do this, but my computer is really slow, and normally I use QuickTime Player, but it just conks out. I need a new computer, frankly. So I won't mince words about it. I created a promo. I've been doing some excited stuff. Why don't I just get through the channel updates first, and then I can go to the really fun stuff, the Starfleet Academy stuff. So yesterday I worked on my fourth wall site. It's intended to be more than just a merchandise site. However, merchandise is a big deal. I have a lineup of t-shirts, hoodies. Let me see, this is the fun stuff for me. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, mugs. There's a white glossy mug, and I designed the Visionary Ventures logo, put it on, and so this is my first launch. So you can be able to go to Fourth Wall. I'm going to create a promo for it. As of right now, they should be available, but I just haven't advertised it. I'm going to create a video promo for it. I do have a video promo for my Amazon discount. I added it. You may have seen it yesterday when I posted it. I have a discount. It's, if I remember correctly, it's vventures-c. I don't remember what it is. If you go to the promo, you'll be able to see it. If you put in the promo code, you'll be able to see it. I feel so proud of myself for having that. All right, let's see if OBS is opening here. Doesn't seem to be opening. All right. So very soon, you'll see more guests being interviewed, not just for the 80s toy aisle. I might as well mention which 80s toy influential people I've already interviewed. Jim Sorensen. I kept calling him Jim Sorensen for some bizarre reason. And I just interviewed Kirk Bazigian. That was a really fun interview. He worked at Hasbro. See, I'm covering 80s primarily. And I have one coming up. I feel very glad to be able to come up with this. Bob Budiansky. It says your connection is unstable. Okay, all right. So I'm going to back off even trying to do the OBS for right now. Hopefully you can still be able to see this. Bob Budiansky, let me see, Kirk Bazigian, and coming up I have some influential people in terms of music, because of Samantha, my Samantha Bahar project, and just a lot of people. Chris, the toy guy, I interviewed. And I've done 4 interviews so far, and I think they come across pretty well. All right, so and I'll be putting promos into my videos. So the standard thing would be I've got a quick, short introduction, and then the opening title sequence, and then my interview, and somewhere in the interview I put in a recorded Amazon discount promo and the fourth wall promo for clothing, apparel, and so forth with my Visionary Ventures. So you can all buy it. Please buy it and advertise my my channel. All right, now I want to talk about Starfleet Academy, how I would do Starfleet Academy. I've put up, I think, 2 videos already on Starfleet Academy, my take on it. I want to give you the nuts and bolts. I want to do a further, more polished version, more polished presentation of it. But I thought through and figured Kirk as a cadet would be in this new series. You could do a TOS, an original series set television series for Starfleet Academy, or you could do a Next Generation setting for Starfleet Academy. For whatever reason, I went with the original series. I think that we could do a series based around the cadet years of Kirk, James Kirk. We already have some characters that we know from the series that he interacted with. But I want to design this not as just a member-berry kind of series, not just like a fan fiction type of series. I want to design the series as a legitimate series of its own. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to have the series be just, oh, here's a younger actor playing Kirk, and here's a younger actor playing Spock, and so forth. I want it to be a series that's about something that has substance, even though it is set during Kirk's years at the Academy. And I was very careful to go through and see what a Naval Academy is like, compare that with what references we've been given in Star Trek through the seasons, through the various incarnations of Star Trek, and be accurate to the original series. So I melded the two together. In my mind, I had in mind the Lieutenant, which was, I don't remember how many seasons, I think maybe 1 or 2, something like that. That was Gene Roddenberry's earlier series, right before he did Star Trek. What was the name of the actor? The actor who played Gary Mitchell in Star Trek starred in The Lieutenant. However, that didn't necessarily exist in. I'm sorry, my disk is almost full. I'm getting a note here. I really need to do some cleaning up, some housekeeping. He was a lieutenant in the Navy, so I wouldn't want to do that, but I had that in mind. All right, so what would this series be like? It would be before Kirk goes to the USS Republic, and here's where I found, I think, a way of reconciling two different references given in the original series. In Court Martial, it says that Kirk had been an ensign on the USS Republic when Ben Finney, there's that fiasco with Ben Finney not noticing something. Kirk reports it, and then Ben Finney blames Kirk for all these years afterwards. So Ensign comes before lieutenant in ranking, and we know later on in was it Obsession that Captain Garavik was Kirk's commanding officer from the day he left the academy. From the day he left the academy. So how do you reconcile that? And Captain Garavik was on the Farragut, was commanding the Farragut when Kirk was on the Farragut, and there was this disaster that's mentioned in Obsession. Well, who's to say that Captain Garavik wasn't earlier commanding the USS Republic? So I have in mind that Kirk was on the Farragut, and sorry, something popped up here. Kirk was on the Farragut, and okay, shoot, something popped up I have to deal with. All right, there we go. Okay, Kirk is under Garavik on the USS Republic. However, that's not his cadet years. I want to cover his cadet years. In my earlier premise, it's on one of these YouTube videos, I had simulators. They would go into simulators or go on special runs or something. Holodeck, use the holodeck. Well, there is the idea of the summer cruise, that summer cadet cruise. In the real Navy, it's true there's classroom discussion, there are courses taken in a classroom, but that would be pretty boring in a TV show, especially one for Star Trek, because you're catering to a franchise, fans of a franchise about exploration. So what I envision is that Kirk is one of several cadets. Each season, they would be on a yard ship, a ship, a smaller ship. Wouldn't be like the Enterprise. It wouldn't be top of the line. It would be a cadet ship. They would travel, probably not very far from Earth, but we do know in real astronomy, we do know several nearby stars. We have a lot more knowledge about which stars can harbor life, likely to be harboring life, and so forth. So I envision the ship would be somewhere around Earth. Let's get to the true the true meat of it, the characters and what kinds of adventures we would be seeing. So each season would be a new year covering Kirk's summer months on cadet cruises. So conceivably, the series would be 4 seasons. Each season would be a different year. So he'd go from plebe, first year, second year, third year, and then graduating year. And you'd have to add in some element of the Twilight Zone. You can't just have it be Kirk messing with machinery. So I see it as focused on Kirk and told through primarily Kirk's point of view. He wouldn't be the captain. It would begin with normal cadet operations, and then some kind of Twilight Zone-esque scenario comes in, and it forces Kirk to, or some of the other characters around Kirk, to learn how to deal with this kind of Twilight Zone gimmick for that particular episode. And what characters would be in our show? Well, you have the commander. I haven't figured out the name of the commander for this cadet ship. It wouldn't be the Republic, because that's when he was an ensign, full-fledged ensign. So you'd have some kind of commanding officer of a cadet ship, and you would have some kind of older character, perhaps a lieutenant, ensign, something like that, who would be overseeing Kirk. Now, there are some characters we've seen in Star Trek, the original series. We have seen John Gill, who's a professor at the Academy. In fact, we've seen two. We know about at least two professors at the Academy. We know about John Gill, who I believe was a history professor, and we know about who's the other professor? John Gill and I'm blanking on the other professor. Um, we know about Finnegan, thanks to the episode Shore Leave. So he would be an upperclassman who is kind of bullying Kirk. Now, Kirk, I should mention, thanks to Where No Man Has Gone Before, we know that Kirk wasn't the loose kind of character that we see during the series. He characterizes himself. Well, actually, Gary Mitchell. Remember, Gary Mitchell in Where No Man Has Gone Before characterizes him when he was a lieutenant, instructing at the academy, as a stack of books with legs. So I'm thinking that perhaps his arc in this series over the 4 years would be him loosening up. Perhaps he's eager to please. Perhaps he is headstrong. He wants to prove himself. And of course, we know that there was a character that helped. There was a character in who's the father of a character in the episode The Apple that helped Kirk get into the academy. I don't remember his name at the moment. But he perhaps Kirk feels like he has an obligation. So that could turn him towards being like a stack of books with legs. However, from Finnegan and these other characters that we meet, the relationships, the ongoing character arc, we see him loosen up over time. Now, there's also Janice Lester. She is, I believe, an archaeology, somebody involved in archaeology that we see in the final episode, Turnabout Intruder. And she talks about the relationship that they had, a little bit about the fact that they had a relationship during the academy. That is obvious potential for a kind of relationship character for Kirk. And we can perhaps see what would later on we can see the struggles that they would have interpersonally that would lead to her later on, and what kind of a character we see her in as see what kind of a character we see her as in Turnabout Intruder. We also see Ruth, although in Shore Leave, although I don't know necessarily whether she was a romance at the academy or not, but I could see that. I could definitely see that. So we would need a character that would be close to Kirk, like overseeing Kirk, perhaps giving Kirk some guidance. Now, this commanding officer would be different. The commanding officer, I would envision as being more stern. There is a thing as a cadet, when you go on these cruises, so I've read, that each cadet would keep a log. And so we would hear voiceovers of Kirk's log, comments on what he was thinking at the moment, so forth, something like a captain's log. Although, as you may notice, it would not necessarily be the same as a captain's log. It would serve the purpose of a captain's log. We may also hear voiceovers from his trainer, the character I was talking about before, perhaps the trainer's lieutenant, commenting on Kirk's actions, so forth. But primarily, Kirk would be the central focus. I'm sure William Shatner would enjoy that. And the commanding officer of the cadet ship would also be creating his own logs. So I don't know how many of you have seen The X-Files, but especially in the early episodes of The X-Files, Dana Scully would write her own reports about Mulder, her assessment of Mulder's philosophies and beliefs and suspicions. So I see this as being like what we would see with the commanding officer at the end, whereas in the original series and somewhat, I guess, in the next generation, we would see the tag. We would see in the tag, the final moments of a particular episode. We would see like Kirk and Spock. Well, Spock not chuckling, but Kirk commenting with Spock, and then McCoy chuckling and so forth. They're content now. They're happy on the bridge. I see the tags in this series as being something more like the commanding officer assessing how Kirk has dealt with the like Twilight Zone type of scenario. And by Twilight Zone type of scenario, I mean something that they encounter that's unforeseen. They're going about their day, their routine cadet situations, and this Twilight Zone, conception for the episode pops in and interrupts their cadet operations. You'd see the reference Starfleet Training Command, because that is technically what the overarching authority is in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Starfleet Training Command. You would also see perhaps another cadet, Merrick, R.M. Merrick. This is a character that you see later on in Patterns of Force. Sorry, not Patterns of Force. That was John Gill, Professor John Gill. No, you'd see in, I had it for just a moment, Bread and Circuses. So you'd see some of these cadets we have heard about or seen in the original series alongside Kirk. So I'm looking through to see what else. I was wondering, in terms of Ben Finney, Lieutenant Commander Ben Finney, I was wondering if he could be the commanding officer of this ship. He's a lieutenant. Well, he's a lieutenant commander when Kirk is captain. I don't know whether he could be the commanding officer of this cadet ship. In Court Martial, Kirk says that he was Kirk's instructor at the academy, and then later on, several years later, they were assigned to the Republic together. So that's an implication that that he didn't see Ben Finney again until they were both assigned to the Republic, which is after the cadet show. So, and there's my girlfriend calling in. It's okay. I'm ending this anyway. So, let me see. So you have several cadets. You have a scenario that you could fit Star Trek like familiar, situations that are kind of familiar to Star Trek fans. And you'd see several characters. You need to create some new characters, each having his or her own perspective on Kirk, or perspective on the situation itself. That's what I meant at the beginning by not just having a member berry show or like a fan fiction where it's all about Kirk and remember this, remember that, remember John Gill, remember the Enterprise, and so forth. I want it to be a substantial show in and of itself, with constructed as you create any other show. This is just in the tradition, in paying respect. I don't want to say paying respect. Being aware of what had come before it in Star Trek and falling into the normal, falling into the timeline. So I wouldn't be fooling around with timelines, putting in an alternate timeline. I would have the show be aware of the references, portraying Starfleet accurately, portraying what we've seen of, in references accurately, and yet constructing a show that's entertaining for today's audiences, also entertaining Star Trek fans as well, being respectful to not just the franchise, but being respectful to all those hours and years and months or whatever worth of TV watching of Star Trek that the fans have done. So there are several aliens we might encounter. Now I haven't seen Enterprise in its entirety, so I don't know if this would contradict that. I'd have to check. But I do see, of course, Vulcans, Klingons, Tellarites, Andorians, and Orions. Um, those races, species could make appearances. They're not new. They're not new species or races that we have yet to encounter uh, in Star Trek when Kirk is commanding the Enterprise. I wanted to make sure that we're not introducing a species that that hasn't been discovered yet. It would be throwing off the timeline. Um, so that's about it. I'm gonna stop for now. Look for a more polished version of this, but I thought you'd like to uh, be up to date on what ideas I have so far for my version of Starfleet Academy. Of course, I like to have fun and I like to watch how the current series seems to be failing. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen this series myself, but I've seen some shots of it, some scenes of it through what other people have shown on their YouTube channels. Um, so, admittedly, I haven't seen it myself. Um, but I want to design how it could actually be done, presuming that it really is the way fans have been characterizing it. I don't want to just badmouth it. I want to do something constructive. I want to construct a Starfleet Academy show that would really live up to Star Trek fandom. What fans really expect, and see where it goes from there. What would it look like? How would it be designed? And so just have the fun of that too. Like in an alternate universe. Imagine an alternate universe where Starfleet Academy was really well produced. So anyway, look for my promos. Uh, Keep in mind, I have this Amazon affiliate program discount. I'll have a video stuck into my or intercut into my videos, and I already have a fourth wall site. It's up. You can technically be able to buy my stuff. So I'll talk about that in a later episode. Thanks.